Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Chef Yusuf Show, where we learn to cook the Islamic way. You know, 2/3 of the month of Ramadan has already passed, subhanAllah, so quickly, right? So that means that we are in the last 10 days of Ramadan. Aisha radiallahu anha, she reported that when the last 10 days of Ramadan comes, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to tighten his waist belt, meaning that he used to work extra hard. He used to pray all of the night, and he used to wake up his family for the prayers as well. So what the purpose for these 10 nights is for us to exert ourselves in the worship, to make more effort, to move ourselves toward worship even more, right? So what does that mean? That means that we even have less time to cook, right? So one of the things that we want to do in today's dish is we want to do something on the go, something that you can prepare and take with you, just in case if you're going to the house of Allah to do i'tikaf. This is called doing i'tikaf, when you go and you spend few days in the mosque, in the masjid, just for the sake of Allah, just for worshipping. It is really nice to have a sandwich. You can have it for suhoor if you felt hungry. You can have it as a really super fast, quickly, easy snack. Now the thing is, this sandwich is a mozzarella tomato sandwich. There is a very important culinary lesson, so please stay tuned for that lesson. You don't want to miss that lesson. And also, since we talked about the last 10 days of Ramadan, we'll give you some of the ideas on how to make these last days the most proactive, most productive, so we don't waste time. So inshallah, let's go ahead and get started. Feed the world. Okay, so inshallah, the mozzarella tomato basil sandwich consists of mozzarella, basil, and cheese sandwich, of course. So we'll have a French bread. This requires a French bread. We do have our bread knife here. So I'm gonna do half of this French bread. Maybe we'll cut it in another half. So this will be equivalent to 2 people, or if you like, you can have the meal twice. So let's just cut it this way. Now I'm gonna keep slicing this. And for our ingredients, of course, if you didn't guess, we do have some tomato. You want to chop the tomato, you want to slice the tomato. It'll be easier if you have a sliced tomato. I honestly do not have sliced tomato. I exerted all my tomato. I used it all for my salad the other day, and I have some chopped tomatoes that I left, I kept. So I'm gonna use some chopped tomato, and also I'm gonna use mozzarella cheese. I want to just take some time out and mention that I talked a lot about cheeses. I used cheese when we did the qataif. I talked about cheese when we did the bechamel sauce with the macaroni and cheese. But there is something important that has to do with the halal eating the Islamic way, that has to do with cheese, that they put enzymes in these, specifically in mozzarella cheese. And in the United States, in the West, if you are not careful, they do put pork-based products because they are the cheapest, right? So make sure when you look at the package, you either say K as a kosher cheese, or it could say UD or KD. They use the KD, of course. So you can go ahead and just keep an eye, read the ingredient. If you're not sure, you can go ahead and contact the farm that makes the cheese. So I do have a big block of cheese right here. This is mozzarella cheese, as you can see. So we'll go ahead and start. Now this is the sandwich like this, right? So we're gonna flip it, okay, and we're gonna start from the bottom up. Okay, so we'll go ahead. The first thing we do is we'll add the tomatoes, right? We're gonna go ahead and add the tomatoes. And you can tell why I prefer sliced tomatoes, right? I don't have sliced tomatoes, I should have used some, I should have saved some. But anyways, sliced tomatoes goes first. Very easy sandwich, by the way. But there is a very, very strong lesson that we're gonna learn from this. The cheese, of course, you either kind of cut it like this. No, I don't have my slicing knife, so we'll go ahead and use the bread knife, which is not recommended for slicing cheese. Okay, so we'll maybe go ahead and chop it from diagonal from this half, inshallah. And we'll go ahead and add some of the cheese. As you can see, we want to be a little bit more generous with the cheese because this is a cheese sandwich, right? We're gonna go ahead and add some cheese here. Maybe some more here. Here we go. Okay, so on top of the cheese, we're gonna go ahead and add some basil, right? Now, you know, in Islam, we are not supposed to lie. Lying is considered to be a sin in Islam. So I have a confession, right? You know, in cooking programs, if I told you this is basil, I mean, how do you know if this is basil, right? So if you have basil, go ahead and add some basil. This is not basil, but I'm pretending that it is basil, but I just feel I have to confess that it's not basil. So we'll pretend that this is basil. This is actually mint because I do have a mint garden outside. I can use mint. So we'll add some of the wannabe basil. And also I have another confession, by the way. Remember when the episode when we made mujaddara, I added some of the cumin. Actually, that wasn't cumin. I didn't have cumin that day, so I had some other spice and I pretended it's cumin. Yeah, you don't know. How do you know, right? So this is the thing that you have to, you know, when you watch the TV network, do you really believe them when they put their ingredients in? I don't know. I just have this confession, and in Islam we're not supposed to lie, so we'll just go ahead and put that aside. So after this, we'll go ahead and drizzle some olive oil. Now, this is the most extreme virgin olive oil you're gonna use, right? So either drizzle it on top of the cheeses, and we can drizzle a little bit on the bread right here. We'll go ahead and spread it around, and we'll go ahead and flip everything over, and there we have a really delicious and yummy mozzarella tomato sandwich. Let's go ahead and press it a little bit so the tomatoes won't fall out. Here we go. So right now you can just go ahead and wrap it. Of course, we talk about wrap, we're not talking about the music wrap. We're using this plastic wrap. We'll wrap it so we can take it with us to the masjid, or if we want, we can keep it in the fridge. We can, of course, cut it in half. We can do a lot of things with this, right? So if you're performing the night prayer and you felt hungry and you can't wait for the suhoor, or you can't leave the masjid, this is something you can take with you. It is, how long did it take us? A few seconds, right? And this is what Ramadan is all about. It's about, you know, the worship side. It's not about the cooking and staying in the kitchen all day long. Now I wish our brothers can accept to have supper as a sandwich for iftar. Imagine that. Imagine if we all in Ramadan just eat sandwiches. Imagine, and we don't have to waste any time in the kitchen, and instead that time wasted in the kitchen, we can use that time to learn the Quran, to memorize the Quran, to understand what Allah is communicating with us, because the month of Ramadan is about the message of the Quran, right? When would that day come? Inshallah, this will be one of my dreams, that this day will come, that we don't have to worry about food so much, especially in the month of Ramadan. It's all, you know, the food is wasted and just too much time with food. You can take this, put it in the fridge. Of course, it contains mozzarella cheese. And the important lesson that I want to share with you is, let me ask you a question now. Think about it. Which is more healthier, pizza or this really nice, delicious sandwich? Right? This is the misconception that when you ask people, they tell you because the media told them that pizza are not healthy. Well, it is the same exact ingredients, right? You have a bread crust that has tomato sauce, that has cheese on top of it, right? So we just have some basil, tomato, basil, pizza, you know, and then there's another layer of bread. So how come this is more healthier than pizza? And the truth is, it's not. It's exactly the same ingredients. And the same thing when you look at pasta, when you look at spaghetti. Spaghetti, it has starch, it has some dough, it has some spaghetti, right? That is the bread. You have tomato sauce, that is the tomato, and you have a lot of cheese and all of these toppings. Just like a pizza, exactly. So how come a spaghetti, or, you know, what defines this? And this is something you have to understand as a chef, that the thing that happened in our society, they are just, I guess it's emotion. The way it works, it's emotional, right? The way the market works, right? So if one time the society just considered the pizza is not healthy, and you can just twist things around a little bit and present them something else that people will accept. This is important to understand in the food industry, because this happens all the time. The other day, the peanut butter is considered bad for your health, right? We see that tomatoes have some kind of germ in them. So we have to keep an eye and understand these things. This is something that you have to understand if you're really serious about the culinary arts business. Okay. So I'll keep that aside now. We'll go ahead and talk about some of the hints and things that we can do in the month of Ramadan, especially in the last 10 days. So let's go ahead and get started with those. As we mentioned the hadith in the beginning, we have to tighten our belt or waist belt. We have to work harder. So if you are able to pray at night, go ahead and try to pray as much as you can at night. Praying, number one. Number two, going to the masjid. The masjid has a lot of benefits. If you ask the Tablighi brothers, they will tell you a whole things about doing the i'tikaf, because that's what they're doing. They're trying to go and be in an environment they are worshipping 24/7, right? They're not distracted by the outside world, by the things, whatever is outside. They're not distracted. This is something that the i'tikaf gives you, that environment, and it is recommended and for the last 10 days to do i'tikaf. If you can't do it, a lot of people, all my friends, they will take their vacation day in the last 10 days of Ramadan. So this is something you might want to think about. Okay, third is to look for Laylatul Qadr. Laylatul Qadr, we'll talk about it in a separate episode, inshallah. But it is a night that is one of the odd nights that are one of the most amazing nights in the year, right? It is believed in Islam that this night is equivalent to 1,000 months, right? So inshallah we'll talk about the night Laylatul Qadr in some other day, but we want to keep in mind that we want to, in these odd nights, in the nights that are believed to be Laylatul Qadr, we want to even do more and try to achieve more. Fourthly, try in the month of Ramadan, the whole month, make sure that the month does not pass without all of your sins being forgiven, right? And how do we do that? The way you do that is to insist in your dua, to make sure that you make so much dua that you feel that it's possible that Allah can forgive all my sins, So try at least to have that feeling that all of your sins have disappeared because you have did some really sincere and effective and from the heart dua, right? So this is something we can do. Next, also we want to understand the message. Of course, the whole month is about the message of the Quran. It is believed that Imam Malik, Imam Malik is one of the greatest scholars in Islam. He is a scholar of the whole thing. He does the fiqh, he does the hadith, he does a lot of things. But it was in the month of Ramadan, he just closes all of these doors and he just opened the door of understanding the Quran and focusing on the Quran, right? So as much as we can, we want to go ahead and understand the tafasir, the meaning, the translation, what Allah is trying to communicate with us. What every time we see Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, oh who you believe, we should pay more attention and see what Allah is trying to communicate with us. One last thing is make a list of the du'as that you want to make. So if, for example, if you know someone who is sick, you don't want to forget that person, go ahead and make a list of the things that you want to ask for. So just in case if you were too tired to remember what you want to make dua for, you have a nice list. So this is some of the ideas that I wanted to share with you in the month. Also in these last 10 days, you want to evaluate yourself, see what you did. How were you before the month of Ramadan? Are you affected now in the last 10 days? If you're not affected, what can you do to change yourself toward good? And how do you make sure that after Ramadan you are keep going toward that sirat, that direction, the direction of righteousness, right? So this is last but not least. I hope you will enjoy our today's sandwich, of course. I'm gonna take this with me, inshallah. So we'll talk to you next time. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I hope you learned something today. We'll talk to you next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The rewards for everlasting. Feed the world.